Thank you for choosing Angular CDK on top of the Apollo talk that happens on the other room. Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, that's I appreciate this. So today we're gonna unleash the power of the Angular CDK. Yeah, but before I start, I would like to dedicate a tune that I wrote especially for this event, if I may. It's a Viking traditional song. It goes like this. Now we can start over. So, yeah, thanks. This is me from the first NG Vikings, and I'm very excited to be here again. So, yeah, this is me, a bunch of logos, a bunch of stuff that I'm doing. I'm a meetup organizer as well. I'm organized React NYC and co-organizer at Angular NYC in New York City. Work at 500 Tech. I'm also a violin player. I'm doing some dancing from time to time, and I like to build things out of wood. But I'm doing some nice stuff to the world because the world is not a perfect place. So this is me volunteering of dropping free WebStorm licenses above a village of people who use VS Code and other text editors. Yeah, thank you, but there's a lot of people with me. Like I said, I work at a company named 500 Tech. We help other companies to build their front ends, which means that we build a lot of components each and every day, which got some kind of connection to the topic of my talk. So let's get started. Every time you start a new project, if it's for yourself or for someone else, you need to make some decisions. And those decisions are, yeah, no, that's a different thing. And, yeah. And those decisions are which UI library we're going to choose, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel, and we've got some great projects. Hopefully, most of us are familiar with Angular Bootstrap, Angular Material, of course, and a great library called PrimeNG. Is there anyone here who is not familiar with PrimeNG? Raise your hand. All right, check it out. Angular Material. All right. Angular Bootstrap. Bootstrap. Everyone knows Bootstrap. All right. But there is that's not a problem. But there is a thing about when you choose a UI component library, which is customization, because most of the time, like most of us know, we like the way it works, but we don't like the way it looks like. So most of the time, we've got API that enables us to customize the component that we used. So Angular Materials got theming. We can choose from a variety of colors and themes and skins. Angular Bootstrap as well, and PrimeNG as well. But the thing is that each one of those components library comes with a default styling. So when you choose a third-party component like this or a library of components, you need to start with the default styling and then start overriding those styles, which can be not a fun thing. So we like how it works, but most of the time, if it's like a customized design, we don't like how it looks. We don't like how it looks like. Make sense? Yeah? Yeah, let's agree with each other. So we're building our own components, but we don't want to reinvent the wheel. And this is the dilemma. This is the hard life of being a front-end developer. We don't want to build a data table from scratch. We don't want to build advanced component from scratch, but customizing other people's components, it's almost always end up by, all right, so maybe I just write it from scratch after spending some time trying to customize things. So we're going to talk about CDK. Who heard about Angular CDK before? So that's the end of my talk, and I can go. Yeah. Who used Angular CDK before? So I've got at least 50% of people. So CDK means different things to different people. If you live in the country, it might mean cow, a dog, and a kitten. But if you're an Angular, it might. I mean, you live in the country, you're not a developer. CDK, probably that's my animals. But if you're a happy Angular developer, it means Component Development Kit, which is part of material design. I think that on the keynote on the first day, there was a kind of introduction to this thing, yeah? Yes? Just, yeah. Yeah. Cool. So, Angular CDK born within the Angular Material project, which means that all of those components that we keep building again and again and again got some things in common. For example, it doesn't matter if you build forms, navigation, responsive elements, or whatever, we've got certain behaviors that we can extract from it, which is a common thing. So drag and drop is a behavior. Dealing with overlays for building models or tooltips, dealing with scrolling, dealing with right to left, accessibility, positioning, a lot of stuff that can be considered as a behavior, can be extracted from a UI component, and can be reused to build our own stuff. So basically, that's the CDK. Specifically, it was born from the Angular Material project, which means that if we like the way it works in Angular Material, we can use just the behavior with absolutely no default styling, which is a great thing. So this is like the official definition from the docs. It's a common interaction patterns with unopinionated presentation. Sounds good? We're moving toward a live demo, so hang on. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with ng-add, as we all know. So to get a CDK, all we need to do is just npm install, and we've got everything we need. It's not the material project. You can just install the CDK if you like to use it. Let's start to explore what we've got there. Let's see how it works. All right. So I'm going to start by creating, and everyone can see the code? Yeah. Cool. You're going to be my linter. So if you see a problem, you've got two options. You can keep it quiet and wait for me to fail, or you can just let me know that I did something wrong. So you choose, all right? I trust you, the people that I know. Trust no one. Let's create an array with 500 items. I think this will be the quickest way to create an array without using a loop. The for loop. So let's do something like this. Let's take the index, and then let's do this, and item, number, whatever we're doing here. Cool. Now we're going to create a div inside a div. This one going to be ng4 for each item of items. Thanks. A person I can trust. Yeah, you're laughing, but you keep it quiet. No problem. This demo is for you. It was a check. So we've got a bunch of items, which is great, all right? Now, a question for you, no styling, of course, but let's add some CSS just for the fun of it. So let's add a class here, list, and a class called item. So it looks a little bit nicer. We've got 500 items on this list. How many DOM elements we've got on the DOM right now? How many? 500, which is not a good thing. Let's try to push it to maybe add another one. Let's see what's going to happen. Well, it's stuck a little bit, and now it works. And we've got, obviously, too many elements. So what's the solution for this? Now, we're just going to come here, and we can do something like this. Let's put it in a box. Let's call this a viewport. And then we've got this trick, overflow y, auto. Problem solved. Yeah, and now you can see it, but it's still there. Yeah, but you can see it. What's going to happen if I'm going to add a 0? Should I hit save and crash Chrome completely? All right, so the first thing that we're going to live demo called the virtual scroll, which is pretty much straightforward. Use this component, the viewport. Don't forget to give an item size. That's the trick. Let's say 50. And instead of the regular ng4, we're going to use the virtual 4. All right? And now, I'll try to do something very radical. Let's take this number. Try to refresh this. Refresh and working. It was like an instant. And if you look at the DOM, you will see this component at work, just reusing the same views without creating new elements. So you don't have 500,000 elements on the DOM.
And 50 is pixels, right?
Yeah. Cool? Well, nice. I think it's very impressive, honestly. I mean, so I tried to load like almost 1 million, and it took a second, of course, because it's JavaScript and it blocked the UI, but it was like 3 to 4 seconds, and you can scroll the entire list, and you can do it async, and you can pull stuff from the server. Give it a try. No styling, 0 styling. All right, let's do another thing before we move to the other nice stuff. So I'm kind of going back to the regular ng4. And I know you've seen a demo of this. Let's go back to the list. Let's change this to a box. What? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's do 10. Don't die. Don't. All right. Almost. Wait a second. All right, cool. So you've seen a demo of this on the first day, but let's do it like live to see how easy it is to implement drag and drop, and then let's give it a twist. So drag and drop again. You need 2 elements. One is the container. The other one is the element that you're repeating. You can just add CDK drop list, CDK drag, and we want to implement an event, a method for the drop. If you're working with WebStorm, you can just type the method that you want to implement, like this, and then Alt-Enter, create a method. You've got it right here with everything you need, and you can just go straight away and implement this. That's the only thing we need to do. So we're just adding behavior with directives to the container, to the drag. We catch this event, dropped, and even the logic, we get it for free. So for example, I can do move item in array, and that's from the CDK. I need to provide the array. From the event, I can grab my previous index and the target index. It's going to look like this. Current index. And hopefully, right? So a very complicated thing to achieve, and you've got just the behavior. I mean, all of this CSS, including this animation, it's 100% custom CSS. So you can drop it completely, and you get 100% of behavior of drag and drop, which is cool. Let's take it a step further. Do you want to take it a step further? Yeah. Maybe you're not. I can talk about Apollo as well. All right, let's create another list. Now I want to connect 2 lists, and I want to drag and drop between 2 lists, which is like, let's write a bunch of code, or let's create an empty list here. Let's call it no items. Very descriptive name. So I just duplicate the same code, and here I'm going to say this is going to be ng4 for the no items, and I'm going to wrap both of those lists with div. I'm just going to give it a little bit of styling so we see the list like one beside another. So let's say display flags for this, and justify content of space between. It's going to work out, I think. Yeah. So I've got 2 lists. And the only thing I need to do to get all of this connection between those lists is just add to the wrapper CDK drop list group, and we're done. So now we've got even more complicated behavior, almost. Oh, yeah, the drop. Instead of move items in array, let's do something real complicated, like transfer array item. Transfer from this list these items to this no items, and that's it. So hopefully now we can drag from one list to another. A very complicated behavior, zero styling, and minimal amount of code. And of course, you can customize the way it behaves, and we've got full API to do some other stuff with it. So it's not just the drop event, we've got the drag event and the enter event, whatever you need. Who find this impressive? I'm just doing the demo. Yeah, you should appreciate the people who build this thing, which is not me. All right. So yeah, hug them on after the conference. Who heard about portals in Angular? Just a few. Who used portals in Angular? Portals. P-O-R. Oh, yeah. My accent? Portals. Who used portals? Cool. Most of you haven't used them, maybe haven't heard of this. I think that this is one of the coolest features in the Angular CDK. And because it needs some background information, let's play a few slides. So, a portal, that's the official definition, a flexible system for rendering dynamic content into an application, which sounds nice, professional, and advanced, but we know how to render dynamic content. So what's the big thing about a portal, and why do we call it a portal? So as you can guess, the portal, it's like, let's take something and send it to another place. For example, let's write a component and render this component somewhere else. And what do I mean by somewhere else? It can be outside of our component tree. And I don't know, it even might be a different DOM. Let's give it a try. To work with portals, we need to learn about basically two moving parts. We've got something that we call the portal, which can be just a component or a template, and we've got a host, which we call a slot. So you create a host, and then you can render templates, portals, inside this host. So if I created a host right there, where the water bottle sits, and I'm writing my component right here, I can render my component over there. I can portal it. Make sense? No? No. Cool. Let's see how it works. Let's try to see how it works. Yeah, so I'm gonna create a new component for this. What's the time? Oh, I'm good. I'm gonna create a new component for this. I'm gonna use again Angular schematics. I'm gonna create a component. Let's call this component portal window with. We don't want any spec on this one. I want to save some code. It can be an inline template, it can be inline styled, and it can be flat. I just want to create a component, and that's it, all right? So I'm going to start with a standard practice. I want to create a component that wraps another component. So I'm going to use the ng container component, which is a dummy element, and it's going to wrap ng content, which means that everything that's going to be wrapped with this component is going to be projected into this line. Cool? Next, the container, I'm going to add this directive, CDK portal. And because we're using the asterisk behind the scene, we're using a template, something going on here, and this directive exposed an instance of CDK portal to this element. Even if this sentence sounds a little bit like, what do you want from us? What we need to know that currently, if I try to get a reference to this element, I'm going to get an instance of something that's called a portal. So let's do it. View child. And from the template, I want to grab the CDK portal. So I can just mention the type, and that's enough. Because this ng container is now a CDK portal, this directive exposed an instance of CDK portal. So I've got a component that is a portal. CDK portal. Next. So if you remember the slide, we've got a portal. Now we need to create a host somewhere so we can render this portal somewhere else. So I'm going to do something nice. I'm going to try to create an external window and what I want to do, I want to create a component that's going to render on a completely new window to create a multi-window application with Angular and see if it works. So I've got an external window. I've got my portal. I'm going to use the constructor to inject some stuff that the host needs. Let's keep it simple. If you're going to dynamically render components, if you're familiar with the API, you know that you're going to need a component factory resolver. A component factory resolver. I'm also going to inject application ref. Give me a reference to the application instance. I'm also going to inject an injector, an instance of the injector, because I need those stuff to build a host. Now, I know it's a lot of boilerplate, but hopefully it's going to make sense in a second. So we're done with the boilerplate. I've got my portal. I've got a reference for external window. I've got dependencies that I need to render something dynamically. I can jump into the ng on init and start building this stuff. So this external window going to be a new window. I'm going to use window open. Let's try to make it quick. It's going to be 600. And this one will be 600 as well. All right? Just going to open a new window. Next, I'm going to create a host. The type going to be portal DOM. Portal DOM? Don't remember. DOM portal host. New DOM portal host. Creating an instance for a host that's going to host our component. I'm going to pass everything he needs. And he needs, first, he needs a DOM element. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me, I want to do something. No, it doesn't seem to work. All right. First, I'm going to create a host, we need a real DOM element. So I'm going to give a reference to the external window. So this external window, document, body, create host on the external window. Next, I need to pass the component factory resolver. I need to pass the application ref. And I need to pass an injector. Once I've got the host, I can take the host and attach this portal. 90% of this code was pure boilerplate. The only thing that we actually did here is to create a separate window and an instance of DOM portal host and provide all the dependencies. All right? The template itself, everything you're going to pass is going to be wrapped in a portal. Make sense? I'm going to share this code with you, obviously, so you can play with this and see how it works. So let's try to do something with this. I'm going to go back to my app component, and here we've got two lists. So what I want to do, I want to wrap this list with our new component, app portal window. before I hit save, I want to take this component and just transfer it to another window. And because I'm within the same scope of the same component, hopefully everything gonna work out in between. Let's give it a try. Go back to the browser. I need to get out of full screen, otherwise it's not gonna work. Any errors? No. Where's the other window? What? Yeah, it was a test for you. You nailed it. All right. So now I've got two windows, which is interesting. I might be able to drag and drop from one window to another. It is work, but there is no styling because that's a different window. So I'm going to use on the portal window, I've got this nice little function that I created called copy styles. So I can copy all the styles from my document to this external window document. And just, to give you some best practices, if you're writing code that looks like this, always clean up after you. So I'm going to implement the onDestroy. And I'm going to destroy this window. Oh, go back. This window, external window, close. Good? Let's go away, go away, go away. Let's refresh. Two separate windows and same context, which I think is very cool. Now, when you think about it, I build a video player. Actually, I'm working right now on a side project that enables you to play two different videos in two different screens, and the main screen uses a mixer between them because I want to mix and match, and this feature is like exactly the feature that I needed for this. You can actually create a multi-window app, and you keep the context. All you need to do is write a single component called a window that's going to create a portal and a host on a different document, and then you can just send the component, render it from one window to another, which is very powerful and very cool. Nice? Cool. Let's wrap up everything that we learned. With the Angular CDK, we can use behaviors, we can use patterns, we can use API to build advanced component with no default styling, which means that if you're building a component or you're building a library or you're building your own custom designs, it's going to save you a lot of work because we don't need to deal with customizations. I've got a new book that I wrote about CSS. So you can get it for free. It's about CSS gradients. It's called 50 Shades of Gray for background color. You can find it on O'Reilly. Hope you had a good time. Thank you very much for your time. This is my Twitter handle. And I think we're done for today, no?